Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Talking Talent. My name is Andrew, and tonight we have two lovely ladies with us. And this is the Recruiters Think Tank. We will be addressing all your questions, all your concerns as it relates to the recruitment space. Please let us know where you are joining us from. If you are on Facebook, if you are on LinkedIn, if you are on YouTube, we'll appreciate the shout out. Please let us know where you are joining us from. And in fact, if you have any questions as it relates to the hiring process, um, we have Annalie Nemhard and we have Jordan Smart. And I'm pretty sure they are more than capable of answering any questions that you might have. It's going to be a very exciting discussion. So get your questions lined up. This is part two. Last week we delved into some areas and we didn't have the time to really explore those areas. So we're here again tonight. All right. So we are really happy that you have joined us. I see a lot of people tuning in. I'm not sure where you're tuning in from, but please let us know. This is Talking Talent. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I see Aishika saying that she's joining from Facebook. Thank you, Aishika. And I see Shannon Dale Lead from my Jamaica Today's News headquarters in St. Anne. I'm very close to St. Anne. We need to check that out. Awesome, 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 awesome. Really happy that you are here. All right, so Anadine and Jody, and for those who just joining us for the first time, please remind our viewers and our listeners who you are.
Should I start,
Go
Andrew?
ahead. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm Anadine Nemhard. I'm a talent consultant at EY Jamaica and a very passionate HR professional. Looking forward to sharing with you guys again tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Jody.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. I am Jordan Smart and I'm an HR assistant, operations assistant at HRM Options, passionate about recruitment and HR. And thanks again, Andrew, for inviting us again.
Awesome, awesome. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion. Last week we delved a little bit deeper. We delved, we took a head dive into certain areas, and some areas we weren't able to explore. We want to look at those tonight. But I also want to invite our viewers that if you really, really have a question that you really need to be answered, anything as it relates to job hunting, the hiring process, resume writing, tonight is your night. So we're asking that you just put your questions in the comment section so we can get them answered. And just put ask, #ask, so I could highlight those questions. All right, so let's get cracking. So picking up from where we left off, I wanted to ask this question last week and I never got to ask it. Can you tell us or share with us, the best candidate that you've hired? Why you feel that candidate was the best candidate? I'll start off with Anady.
Putting me on the spot, Andrew. There was a candidate that I had interviewed in a previous role. And, it's a young professional, a gentleman that worked in accounting. And there was just something about his overall approach to the role, because he
Mhm.
was familiar with the functions of the role, but he's never worked in that same capacity. But he did his research. He came prepared. The line of communication was very good, and just his overall approach to the whole interview process was just
Mhm.
different. And it's so surprising that I interviewed him at a previous job, and I also interviewed him at my current job as well, and he was still just as consistent. As a matter of fact, when I checked LinkedIn today, he got a new opportunity, a senior opportunity. I'm like, there's candidates that are normally excellent. They're normally excellent right across the board, not just in the interview, but in the job itself.
Awesome, awesome. Jodianne.
Okay, and yes, for me, it was my previous role in the hospitality industry. Um,
Mhm.
I love candidates that when they come to you, they already know about you. They're not, I don't know the role. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
prepared. I just want a
Mm-hmm.
job. When
Mm-hmm.
even if it is that you want a job, they explain to you, how I can benefit your company. So for example, I interviewed someone who wanted to be a bartender. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't have much experience. He did heart training, but he wanted to get his big break in the hotel. And thus his
Mhm.
mannerism, researching about the company, how I can assist you, constant following up. I love candidates like that. Not just you want a job. So I would really advise, persons moving forward. I know everyone wants a job, but you have to have some sort of passion. And passion, trust
Mhm.
me, you can hear it in the interview.
Yep.
So trust me, that's what I look for. Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So passion is important.
Yeah.
You how they're coming through to the interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you suggest then to a candidate who is applying for a role? You know, you have those who are extremely bubbly and all over the place, and the voice is high as the ceiling,
Mm-hmm.
and you just can't seem to get them to settle. What would you say to those candidates? Yes, you need to have the passion, but would you also suggest that there needs to be some sort of a steadiness and middle ground? You're not too extremely excited and you're not too um, sulky and dull. What would you
Mm-hmm.
say, Anadina? Then I go to Joe.
I think there is this perception that extroverts do better at interviews than introverts, which I don't think is the case. There are persons that are naturally, their personality is normally more bubbly. They might talk a little bit more excited. They might gesticulate a little bit more. But the content, the key in everything is to ensure that the information that you're sharing, that the content is there. And that
Absolutely.
and in truth though, if you do practice for an interview and you do your research, it comes out in the interview. As Julian had
Mhm.
mentioned in her example as well, where the person was passionate and they also did their research on the company, they know the ins and outs, doing the background work. You can tell as a recruiter in doing an interview, you can pick it up.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jodianne, do you think that they need to mellow it down when I go? Or they should
Well,
just
well, I mean, their personality will come out, but as a recruiter, based on your experiences, the content, as Anadine says, everything looks good, but when you get to the
Mhm.
content, the resume, the asking the questions, the situational questions, sometimes you can take out a lot of information from that. So while yes, it's good to be passionate, while it's good to be bubbly, yes,
Mhm.
it's a plus. We also want to get to the meat of the matter, which is your content, what you can bring, what you can offer to the company, and how you can grow as an individual as well.
absolutely,
Yep.
absolutely. That's important. I think what is not so popular here in Jamaica is what we call career move. And I think also
Mhm.
as recruiters, we do not sell a career move to a candidate. And that is, I might be in this particular role now, and it might be paying more than the role that I am interviewing for. But if the interviewer and if the recruiter can clearly map out a journey as to how this move will benefit the candidate, sometimes you will find that they will accept the role even though it's a lesser salary. Do you agree?
I agree. In previous and in my current role, I try to not just sell the compensation as the motivating factor, but also trying to identify. And even in the interview, I'll ask the candidate, where do they see themselves in within the next 3 to 5 years, and how will this role take them there? A lot of the times, even persons will transition, or persons might be interested in different opportunities, not necessarily even for compensation. It could be to get to the next level in terms of coaching and mentoring from a different in a different department, or if you want to get exposure that you're currently not getting in your current role. And sometimes you have to make a lateral move to get to where you want to get to. And I've had to do that in my career as well, to take a lateral move that, you've been doing the same thing before, but sometimes you have to kind of go into a bigger sea to transition to where you want to get to. And I think it's always good for the recruiter to kind of build that kind of relationship with the candidate, to kind of have the conversation to say, this opportunity, what are you looking for in terms of your transition? Where do you want to go? And how will this position take you there? Because then you can kind of have an idea of, okay, how long is this person probably going to stay with me? If they stay 3 to 5 years, I would get my return on investment. And in identifying it in the interview as well, you can also include the hiring manager in succession planning, that, I'm hiring this person, but this person has the leadership skills, has the soft skills, has the technical skills that, persons that are retiring within the next 3 to 5 years, I can groom that person to get to that level. So you have to take that into consideration.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Julia.
I really agree with that. And I think as recruiters, we should not focus on filling the position, because we have to ask the questions, what is your purpose? What is, as you said, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years or 3 to 5 years? Ask the necessary questions. How is this going to achieve your goal? And in interviewing, yes, it takes some time. It will come out. And it can either be good. They may say, what, you're right. Maybe this is not the move right now. I'll try back again. And it does happen. Trust me. It does happen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, my next question, and this is I'm very excited about this question, because I think it will help those who are job hunting to understand the process a little bit more. How long does it usually take you to fill a role? Jodian, let's start with you first.
Boy, that question though. I must say it depends on the position. For example, if it's, let's say, customer service, sometimes as recruiters, we would have a pipeline already of persons who we have interviewed before, and they just need to fill the spot. But let's say it's a management position. Management, it's not just enough to have the bachelor's and all of that, it also is about the personality. And sometimes some companies are looking for the right cultural fit. So that sometimes takes some time for me personally, it takes some time for me, because I have to find the right cultural fit for the position. So it varies depending on the position.
Good. Anadine. Good.
For entry level or non-management roles, I would say it normally takes a month from the job is posted to shortlisting and selecting the candidates. But as she said, for manager level and up, especially people managers, it is key to ensure that you understand their leadership style, and it's a different approach. So like for me, when I'm recruiting for managerial roles or leadership roles, I lean on psychometric testing, which is, it does, while it's, some persons, there is an unpopular opinion that it's generic. But what I've found in using different psychometric test is that, you know, persons have completed it and it has identified some of their personality traits that they didn't even me having completed one, I picked up some things and I'm like, I didn't even realize that that was my approach. But in completing it and having the conversations with like my direct reports, I'll get that feedback and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. So for managerial roles, I would say 6 to 8 weeks would be good, depending on the skill set, and if the skill set is available locally, or if you have to kind of pull from the regional or international talent pool, because there's that you have to take into consideration as well.
Absolutely. And the reason I'm asking this question is so that those who are job hunting and those who haven't, you know, applied for roles can understand that you might apply for a role this week and next week or the other week, you know, they don't call you, or they might call you the first week for an interview, but then you don't hear back from the recruiter until about the next 3 weeks because interviews are still happening. And unless the recruiter screened you out completely, where they've decided that, look, we're not moving forward with you, then you might hear from them that they listen, unfortunately, you didn't make the cut. But as a job seeker, it's important for you to know how long it usually takes to fill a role so that you can manage your expectations. Because I think a lot of times frustration comes in where, you know, they get so frustrated with the process that they begin to hound the recruiter and they call him and they send them email. Listen, I have job seekers waking me up in the morning, you know, I have job seekers calling me like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The key thing, a lot of job vacancies normally post that they would only contact the shortlisted candidates.
Right.
So that is key. The thing about it too, as you said, Andrew, sometimes the recruiting process might take a while. So while the recruiter might do a phone screen and then they have to arrange for a meeting with like the hiring manager or with other members of the team, you know, the process can take a while. But again, it goes back to building relationship with the person through the pipeline. So it could be that you just drop an email or you just give them a quick call to say, you know, we're still considering you. This is the update. So they have a kind of understanding that, you know, it's not that we're ghosting you or whatever. There might just be some delay in the process because sometimes interviewers are traveling, sometimes holidays. There's so many other factors that might come up that might influence or delay the process.
Absolutely. And as you talked about that, there are the candidate touch points. I think employers must know what these candidate touch points are, when to update a candidate, you know, so that the candidate doesn't feel as though they're left out of the process. And I feel that when an employer does that, it kind of puts them in the driving seat to say that, listen, we are doing you a favor, and I really that don't sit well with me as a recruiter. So I feel that's one of the touch points. We must identify the touch points. You know, from the initial contact, when a candidate applies for the role, whether via email or whether on your website or they call you, that's the first point of contact. And you must send an acknowledgement email. You must do so.
Yeah.
And then when you move on to the interview, that's another touch point again. How do you journey with the candidate throughout the process is very important. You know, so I want you to talk to me about this, and I see people commenting, but tell me what's your pet peeve as it relates to interviews. So let's look at interviews and then we go to resume. So tell me, when a candidate comes through the door and is behaving a particular way, what is it that you hate the most? I'm not sure if hate is a strong word, but what is it that is your pet peeve?
And I didn't want to say this.
I'll go first because when he said it, that's the first thing that came to mind is that person should always ensure that they treat everyone with respect and the same level of courtesy.
Yeah.
My biggest pet peeve is when persons are only nice to the recruiter or the HR person or the interviewer, and they're rude to the receptionist or the
Yes.
security or the anyone that they're passing. They don't say good
Yes.
morning. They're and then they come to the interview. Hi, good morning. No, that is my biggest pet peeve. And I'll give you a situation. I remember I was doing an interview. So normally, as the recruiter, I would greet the candidates in the lobby and then I would escort them to the interview. No, for whatever reason, maybe it's my youth, lol, but the person assumed that I wouldn't be included in the interview. She came off, I would say, borderline rude to an extent, but very nonchalant in her greeting. And when I was telling her that I was escorting her to the room, and the look on her face when she realized that when I brought her in the room and I sat down, her whole demeanor changed because she thought that I was only just escorting her, that she didn't have to give me any greeting or any courtesy. And it was definitely an experience, and I shared the feedback with her to say to her that you never really know, and even just in general in life, not just an interview, you should always treat everyone with the same level of respect. It should never be because of someone's position or status or who you perceive to be more important than others, that you are more courteous to them than others.
Yes, that is such a sad situation, which reminds me of an experience I had. Jodian?
Okay. Wow, that's Anadine. I understand that for sure. The first point of contact re-interview. For me, my biggest pet peeve is not being open to criticism. When you come to an interview and let's say you're not dressed properly, it happens. You see some dressings and you say, okay, miss, I'm not able to move forward today because I cannot take it to the hiring manager looking like this. So I say, can you come back next time? Miss, that's the only thing I have. You guys should be able to accommodate. No, you listen, and then afterwards you're contacting now to say, Miss, can I have a chance? Come on. Come on, you have to be open to criticisms, and we will call you back. You understand? But you just believe that because this is what you have, that's it. You understand? And yes, we understand as recruiters, things are rough on people. We know, especially now. But that doesn't give you a reason to behave like that.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And I want to challenge both of you. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the silver spoon versus the spanner theory. Have you seen it in terms of recruitment? So you have this ideal candidate who is perfect, and that candidate is called the silver spoon. And then you have the spanner who's been through some rough time, who's been through it all, and really doesn't have it all put together, and both of them show up to your interview room. How do you navigate that situation? And that is why it's so important to measure first impression last. But I want to go back to your point before we touch on this point. I see some people commenting, but I want to go back to your point, Anadine, because I went to a local bank maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I needed to change some US, and the bank at the time, I had US account. I wanted a higher rate, so I went in and tried to bargain because they said, come up, you can bargain.
Using your sales skills, Andrew.
I'm sorry?
Using your sales skills.
I tell you, I wanted a higher rate. To say the least, the bank teller was really, really not courteous. Very rude. And I was very disappointed, so much so that I didn't bother to do any business. I said it doesn't make sense. I was back going back and forth, and then I just decided that I wasn't going to proceed any further. About 3 weeks after, I advertised a role for a particular class, supervisory role. Lo and behold, who applied for the role?
Same customer service. See?
How I knew it was the person was because the person attached a photograph. And so when I looked at the photograph and I looked where the person worked, I saw the exact same title and I saw the exact same location and I saw the name of the company. And so I realized that it was the actual person who was so rude with me. But no, it just turned around, came right back at my feet. So it's important that as a job seekers, we show up as human beings. So I guess the message that you're trying to bring across, Anadi, is that we show up as human beings, genuine, honest.
Yes.
I see some comments coming in. I see Tremaine saying that he believes that recruitment pipeline should utilize technology to automate certain tasks. And I definitely believe that because some of the negative rap that recruiters and HR managers are getting now is the lack of feedback for one, and job seekers just not knowing what's happening. So if they automate the process, it will be much easier for them. What are your take on that?
I agree. I mean, having used a very fully functional applicant tracking system, it makes things a lot easier. There are a lot of the things that would be just on autopilot. From the start in terms of job posting to when you're closing a job, it makes things a lot easier because what it does through going through the pipeline, it sends auto responses based on you utilizing a system. So if someone is shortlisted, it sends them an auto email to confirm the time. When you close a job, all the applicants that were not selected, they get an auto response to say, thank you for applying. However, we've gone with another candidate. Wish you all the best and to continue to apply. Versus the recruiter only having probably an email access and then having to manually send emails to the candidates, or some persons have the time to call the candidates to advise them of where they are in the process. So the automation makes things a lot easier. But as you can imagine with technology, it's normally the larger companies, and it's normally sometimes expensive, especially if you're not a high volume recruiter. The return on investment might not make sense if you are not doing high volume recruiting.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Jodian, why do you feel some employers are so reluctant to give feedback? To be quite frank, and when you answer that, I need to touch on when it is appropriate to give feedback, because I think that is also appropriate. So let's talk about why you feel that some employers are reluctant, or HR managers are reluctant.
Andrew, I don't necessarily agree that they're reluctant. Being in HR for so long, I see they have to do disciplinary meetings, they have to do staff welfare. I don't think they're necessarily reluctant to give feedback, but they're busy. However, there should definitely be a certain time where they set aside for, giving feedback. Or what some companies do, they have a specific recruiter that deals with it. So yes, it's an expense, but they should have someone there or an automated system to provide the feedback to the candidates. In terms of the feedback timeline, it all depends, as I said before, on the position. For example, if it's a entry-level position, and the qualifications and experiences are not that great, then for me personally, based on my experiences, I would say possibly a week to 2 weeks tops. However, if it's a management position or senior position, it definitely, based on my experiences, it does take a month, sometimes up to 2 months, to get the right fit for the position.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, okay. Thank you for that. Anadine, let's look at resume writing real quick.
Mhm.
What's your pet peeve when it comes on to a resume? Let's look at two types of resumes. The resumes that you would quickly put into a pile to call back, and the resume that you easily just probably delete and put that in file 30.
Resumes that have a lot of grammatical or spelling errors. I mean, I understand that nobody's perfect and you might have a one or two errors that, resumes are a work in progress. But say, for
Mhm.
example, you're applying for an admin job and then you list on it that your skill is that you're detail oriented. And I'm going through and I see the grammatical and I see the spelling and whatever. And especially now where gone are the days where you don't have the resources. You literally have Microsoft Word that does spell check and grammatical errors. You have Grammarly that you can use. There's so like the resources that you have at your fingertips. It's if you were to utilize them, it makes things so much easier. It's not just using
Mhm.
your own eye or depending on your own approach, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
and the thing is, you can tell sometimes when persons spend the time on their resume. Like what I find, and especially now, and I always encourage younger persons as well. Like you're familiar with technology, utilize technology, use a resume builder, use LinkedIn, Microsoft Word even now has the option for a resume builder. The it has the formatting as well as it will also give you suggestions in creating it. Use that. I find that sometimes a person's approach to resumes is like, or especially persons that think that they're qualified, they're like, but I'm qualified. I don't need to do all of that. I don't need to put out the effort. But you can tell. You can tell in a resume. And what I always say
Yeah.
is your resume is your introduction to the company. I can
Mhm.
look at your resume to kind of pick up the type of person that you are, your approach, and even to see if you'd be a good fit for the organization, how you phrase certain things, the layout. Are you organized? Is it detailed? The formatting, is it
Absolutely.
aligned? Everything, spend the time. You have the resources are there. Spend the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more on that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned in to Talking Talent. Happens here every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. across all three major social media platforms such as LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. If you have not yet subscribed to our YouTube page, please go ahead and do so at youtube.com/talentboxmaker. And tonight we're talking to Julian Smart and Anadine Nemhard, both recruiters, and we're exploring so many school of thought as it relates to how you navigate the recruiting process, how your resume should look like, as Annalie mentioned a few seconds ago. If you have any questions, please um, put them in the comment section so that we can get those answered as well. It is important that you are, in fact, this program is for you. It's to ensure that you, as a job seeker, um, educate yourself. At some point in time, you are going to be hunting for a job. Okay, so let's go back now to Jodian. Can you tell me how you think a candidate should request, how and when should they be requesting feedback? You
Okay.
know,
No, you
go
may
ahead.
continue, Mr. Okay, all right, no problem. All right. Depending on if the recruiter gives you a definite response. If they don't give you a definite response, let's say we'll call you by the end of the week, 2 weeks, then you as the candidate, you definitely should call first, within let's say 2 weeks, because the reality is at this stage, there are a lot of applicants applying to the same positions every day, every week. So, give them a span of 2 weeks to get their affairs in order. But if you're calling every day, nothing is wrong with calling every day per se, because I understand, but you won't get a feedback because we're recruiting for a lot of companies, as well as we have a lot of resumes coming in, great resumes as well. So give them about 2 weeks. That's good enough for me. I'm not sure about Anadine.
In terms of feedback, what I try to do, especially so for the entry level roles, in the interest of time, if I realize that there are some things that are just obvious, I try to share it in the interview. So if I pick up certain thing, if I realize that there is a gap, or even at the end, I'll also give that feedback to say, hey, I think if you, for your next interview, this might be something that you might need to work on, etc. In terms of feedback for the candidates that, have the qualifications, have the experience, but maybe are not good at the interview or the interview process itself, I will try to have like a telephone conversation with them just to kind of explain, where they went wrong. At first, I ask them how they think that they did the interview, what they think went well and what are some areas of development. And then I try to, with a sandwich approach, identify their strengths as well as some development areas that they might need to work on. Because, in truth, there are times when they are good candidates, but they just don't present themselves well. And I've seen that very often. And even in a previous role in recruiting internal candidates, I find that internal candidates don't normally sell themselves well, because I guess they assume that because they're already working with the company, that there is a leverage there, as well as if it is within their own department, they assume that, well, their boss or their manager must be familiar with, how they work. But, you should still approach it the same way as an external candidate, that this is an opportunity, this is something that you're interested in, and, do the research and follow up. But what I also try to do as well, even if I'm not able to have a conversation, for like junior persons, I'll share like recruiting resources that I have. So maybe like general like interview tips, or resume writing tips, or best practices that they can use. And some persons would have used the resources and would have gotten good results. So I think even if you're not able, even if you don't have the time to kind of have the touch base or anything, I think sometimes even from an HR professional, sharing with these candidates, especially entry-level persons that, might not be as experienced, if we were to take just a little time, maybe send an email or give them a call to kind of guide them a little bit, because it will help them later on.
Absolutely. And a good point to note too is that as recruiters, I feel like we need to shift or interview style and approach towards a more performance-based hiring. And when I say performance-based hiring, is benchmarking and looking at candidates' success history. How successful have you been in this role? You've been there for the past 5 years, 6 years, but have you been successful? Because we have candidates, they're in the role for 10, 15 years, but they're really just there, just being ordinary, right? So for me, to be quite frank, I'm not 100% hang up on whether you answer the questions or not, or what I'm looking for, as you mentioned earlier, is content, and aligning that content with what I'm looking for, and digging deeper to look for success, past success. And so for those recruiters that are here, and those job seekers that are here, it is so important that you clarify clearly on your resume your accomplishments. When you go in interviews, you want to talk about solutions, right? That's it. Because at the end of the day, that is what we want. We need problem solvers. We need people that's going to come in. So to be quite frank, I think we've missed the mark so much where we have this complicated process, right? And 150 questions. And at the end of the day, we don't get anybody or the person. We just have to settle with somebody that we say, okay, well, this is the best that we can get, right? It is about matching your past success to this current role. And that's what I look for most of the time when I'm looking for my candidates. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
Andrew, totally. I'm now sitting down thinking, wow, you just blew my mind. Because when we have this happening now, persons will also find a purpose. They're not coming to work, just working. They'll actually be progressing. I'm contributing to X company. I'm solving problems. So that's really revolutionary. Trust me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely agree. I think sometimes as recruiters, we're still kind of stuck in the going through the motions. So tell me about yourself, what's your strengths, what's your weakness, and but I think it would also be good to ask behavioral or situational questions to kind of get a perspective of, what persons can tell you all the good things, like when you ask them what their leadership style, they're innovative, they're this, they're that, but give them a scenario question and it's a contradiction based on what they would have shared before. So it's really kind of tapping in and zoning in. Okay, you're hiring this person for a leadership role. What is their leadership style? How would they approach certain things? How do they handle difficult conversations? How do they handle conflict management? How do they handle having an employee or a staff member that's not performing? How do you have those conversations? How do you motivate staff? What is your approach to just overall leading? What is your management style? What is your leadership style? We tend to get caught up with just going through the checkbox, but you have to kind of put people in, the uncomfortable seat to kind of understand, how do you handle when things are not going well? Because these are the things that are on the job that will make or break a good candidate. Like, okay, you can do well in the interview, but once you start and you're in, we're in the trenches and things are not going well, what do you do? How do you rise above? How do you identify solutions?
Absolutely. That is so important. Now let us touch on this monster, which is no experience. Everybody, and I get this all the time. I don't. How you expect I'm to gain the experience if you don't employ me to gain the experience? How do you navigate that? And I'm pretty sure you're going to say internship, but I want to hear tonight something different from internship. What other advice would you give to those person or job seekers who don't have the experience but really need a job?
I think in terms of their extracurricular activities, there are a lot of skills. And even in school, I tell even my junior staff members when they're coming on, I explain to them, I said, school is very similar to work. There is group work. There are deadlines that you have to meet. There is, working in the environment. You have to be able to communicate and to be able to get along with people. And, the persons that tend to do well at school, and I don't mean just in grades per se, but being able to balance both their education as well as extracurricular activities, are normally the star players at work, because they would have learned teaming, they would have learned collaboration, they would have learned conflict management, they would have learned leadership skills. That there are a lot of persons that might be in service clubs and they would have been secretaries or treasurers, etc. These are skills that you are developing there. I think in truth though, I think we don't have a lot of opportunities for internships here. I mean, there are some companies, but it's normally the larger companies. And I really think that, us as corporate persons should really try to see how best we can give persons opportunities. Because
Yes.
I can tell you that I've been very grateful for all the opportunities that I would have gotten to get me to where I am today. And sometimes we tend to be like, they don't have any experience or whatever, but sometimes you can find a spark and look out for somebody, coach and mentor them. We all are diamonds in the rough, but sometimes we tend to forget that somebody gave us a start, somebody gave us a chance, somebody saw something in us to get us to where we are. So it's kind of remembering that and giving persons that opportunity.
And as you spoke about that, and I'm coming to you, Jody, and I just want to share with those who are job hunting, that you should never give up.
Never.
Job hunting can be such a tiresome process. And I can tell you, I had this experience. I applied for a role, and an awesome company. Salary was, the money good.
Yes.
And I applied for the role, and when I did that, I got the dreaded email. You did not meet the requirements, and I was devastated. But there was something in me said I need to reapply. So to be quite frank, 2 weeks after being rejected, I said, I'm not sure if this is correct. I'm not sure if this decision is the right decision. I applied for the same position.
Nice.
And let me tell you something, Anadine and Jody. I applied about 2 days after they called me. I did the interview. I did so many interviews, and I literally got the job.
Love to see it.
Listen.
So you cannot give up.
Yeah.
You cannot give up. Anadine, and tell us your final thoughts. What are your final thoughts, Jody and Debbie?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was a feedback. Okay. Andrew, I love that ending. Everyone, all job seekers, trust me, you're gonna get responses not favorable. You're gonna get some that are, but the key and the most important thing is to apply, push and never say, okay, I'm not good enough. There, as Anadine said earlier, there's technology to update your resumes to ensure that they're in line, because a lot of you have resumes and they're not up to scratch, but it can be resolved. We have many resources like Andrew Fairman, a lot of companies as well that does resume writing. You can reach out to any one of us as well, but never give up on your job search. Everyone has something to give each company. All right, so never give up.
Absolutely.
Agree. Someone said higher attitude and train skills, and I agree.
Yes.
It's very hard for you to train attitude. Very hard.
I mean, you cannot.
You can encourage a change in attitude, but you can train skills. I think again, don't give up. And that's the thing. You have to be committed to the task, committed to the job, and being positive as well. A lot of the times we tend to focus on the negative, and we tend to focus on some people will not even apply for jobs. So you see the position and you're like, they're not going to pick me. Or if, as in Andrew's case, where he got a decline and he's like, he could have chosen a different path to say, okay, they don't want me, I'm not interested anymore. But he persisted. And a lot of the times persistence will pay off. I've interviewed persons and maybe they weren't a good fit at that time or for that specific opportunity, and would have hired them months later, a year later, 2 years later. I mean, you never really know. And the thing about it is, when you get an opportunity for an interview, prepare, research.
Absolutely. Now, I left this comment, Krista's comment, because I wanted to address it. she said it's quite difficult when you're changing career, and that is important. So I want to say to Krista that there is a specific approach that you must take. You know, you must be strategic about switching career, because again, you have to look for transferable skills and so many other things. So be mindful of that. I have, who's this? This is Yasmin. You know, Yasmin is saying that she is passionate about being a recruiter. You need to link up with Anadine and Jodian and myself. Yasmin, it's an awesome career. And we have some exciting news coming up. We should be launching a recruiters summit, and I'm going on to some big names. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Barbara Bruno, who is on LinkedIn. So if you check out Barbara, she's actually one of the certified LinkedIn what we call it now, educators. She's been in this space for over 50 years. So we're in discussions with Barbara. We're initiating discussions with Bridget Hyacinth as well.
Bridget.
So it's going to be exciting, you know. So we want all of you who, whether you want to come in this space or whether you're looking for any other job opportunity, this is the program to be a part of. And we just want to thank all of you for joining us. Make sure that you like our YouTube page. Make sure you follow us, follow Anadine, follow Jodian, follow myself on LinkedIn, right across the board. I see Pauline coming in saying that you guys motivate me. We appreciate you, Pauline.
Thank you.
This is what the program is for, actually. So let me thank you so much, Anadine, Jodian, for tuning in tonight. It has been a pleasure. Have a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Talking Talent with Anadine and Jodian. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Anadine and Jodian Smart, talking about all things recruitment. What a discussion it has been. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your feedback. Join us next week, Wednesday, where we will have Modiel Calder joining us, and Modiel will be talking to us about improving the candidate experience. This is important. When you interview or when you apply for a job, it is the recruiter, the company must ensure that it is a positive experience for you as the job seeker. And so that is what we will be talking about next week, Wednesday, right here on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, someone had asked a question about a particular role. What are the requirements? You need to visit www.careerja.com to get the full job description for the role that you asked about earlier on. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Teslo. He's saying that you need to plan, organize, and strategize. How many potential employees are looking to start a career, or they just want a job? A lot of time, individuals are not aware of the difference. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Talking Talent. Norda, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Talking Talent.
Struggling to find the right candidate? Need to streamline your recruitment process with a simple and user-friendly platform? Introducing CareerJA, Jamaica's newest and most cost-effective way to hire fast and hire smart. As an employer, you can advertise your job, schedule and track interviews, chat with job seekers to build your employee brand, remove the recruitment hassle, and focus on your core business duties by using CareerJA today. CareerJA, connection made easy.